Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again, and this time I wish to talk about my own mindlessness with regards to a particular conversation that I was having with my daughter, which I will elaborate in details in this video. But the idea is to understand that most of our lives we live in a programmed way. We live in ways that we have inherited and that we have accumulated as memory reserves. And we keep going back to that memory to understand how it made us feel. And it has gotten so embedded in the body that most of the time we react and do not respond. We do not even inquire about our particular behavior, about the way that we say things, about the way we translate things, about the way we feel things. And science today is telling us that most of our lives, 95 to 97% of the times, we function on the subconscious and the unconscious levels, which is also trying to tell us that most of our lives we are not mindful about our words, about our thoughts, about our behaviors, about our actions, about our enactments, and about the way we live our life. And that is why they also say that man is a creature of habits, and we keep going back to the old memory reserves or into the old habits because they had helped us at certain point in time. They had helped us survive. They had helped us function at certain point in time, but maybe we need to inquire if it is truly helping us at this point in time today. And that is why they also say that history keeps repeating itself, but man never learns from it. So maybe it is time to take breathers, to take pause in between, to understand how far are we or how much are we functioning from the subconscious. And if the evidences are proving enough time and again, then I think we really need to get more aware of the subconscious so that we make it more conscious. And not living like programmed beings, but living like more authentic, alive beings. So this conversation happened a few weeks back, wherein it was roughly around 4:30 in the evening, and I was a little tired. And whether I was tired or not, but like I said, that most of our lives we are functioning in quite subconscious and from the unconscious. So I just happened to tell my daughter in Hindi, "अपने मन से कुछ भी मत सोचो," which loosely translates into English as, "Do not think from your head, or do not think from your heart, or do not think from your mind." And listen to what I'm trying to tell you. And she stops, she looks back at me and she says, "अपने मन से मैं सोचूं तो किसके मन से सोचूं? Please elaborate because I don't understand that." And it took my breath away. I smiled, and I had to take a pause. And then I had to tell her, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mean it like that. What I was trying to say is that this." So whatever was the conversation, I gave her a gist of what I was trying to tell her, but I reacted back, I responded back in exactly the same way of what I was used to hearing or what I had heard most of my life when I was growing up. And most of the adults say certain things which they don't even realize how it gets embedded in the belief system. And since we are a part of certain belief system which gets imprinted on us, on our lives, in the form of our education, in the form of parenting, in the form of being a good or a bad person, in the form of being a responsible or an irresponsible person, in the form of religion, in the form of politics, in the form of finances, and all the other things. So we are constantly getting embedded and bombarded with certain belief systems. And since I had heard a lot while growing up, and my generation of people had heard a lot while growing up, "अपने मन से मत सोचो." And it came out exactly like that. And if we go on to think, there are a lot of things that we say. Now let's take certain examples, which again I will share in Hindi and kind of loosely translate into English, which I had heard and a lot of other people had heard and still do hear and use, with regards to their relationships that they are interacting with. So there are a lot of adults who say, ज़्यादा होशियारी मत दिखाना, हमसे होशियारी, which is actually saying, oh, don't try to be too smart. But they aren't saying that don't, show your intelligence to me, which I can't handle because I am not able to decipher that. But they actually say, oh, don't play too smart with me, because I would prefer you being a little dumb, which I am able to handle. So keep your smartness to yourself. And yet we expect our youngsters to be smarter than us. We want them to be smart, but only to a degree. We don't want them to be too curious. We don't want them to be too vulnerable. We don't want them to be too open. We don't want them to be too opinionated, and we don't even want them to talk a lot, to think a lot, to feel a lot. And that is why we keep saying, oh, don't be this, oh, don't be that, oh, don't be this. We tell youngsters, or we tell a lot of people, oh, you're too sensitive, don't be too sensitive, it doesn't help. We're actually inversely saying that it's quite okay to be insensitive. That we'd rather have a little more insensitive, tougher skinned person than have somebody who thinks and feels a lot, and who's equally okay with being opinionated. Then there are parents who say, or a lot of grown-ups who say, ये बहुत शैतान है. Now shaitan in English somewhere loosely translates into devilish, demonic, satanic, and which is kind of saying that this 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old is basically an outcome of a devil. Are we really implying that? Can we not reframe it and say, oh, this child's behavior is filled with naughtiness. The child is very naughty at times. The child's behavior is naughty most times. The child is very explorative, very adventurous at times. And yes, it is difficult. It's a handful at times, and it's difficult because I have never learned how to deal with handfulness. So we don't say all of those things, but rather we say, oh, child, bacha bahut shaitan hai. Really? Who gave birth to that shaitan? Who made that shaitan? And a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old being a shaitan? It's beyond my understanding. So let's try and take this time to take a step back, to take a breather, to introspect, and maybe find 2 or 3 sentences or words or phrases that we constantly use because we've just heard them over time, because we've just learnt them as we were growing up, and then we just hand it over. We just pass it down without really truly inquiring about it, without being mindful about it, so that we awaken our subconscious a little more every time, so that we function, or at least start functioning more from the conscious rather than the subconscious, the programmed belief systems. Let's try and do that, and I will see you soon once again. Till then, take care.